very difficult when you're in leadership to really be fed, because you're always feeding, you're always giving, you're always pouring out into other people. And if you're not careful, you even forget how to receive. So that when you receive ministry, what you do, you're so busy trying to get a nugget you can go home and preach with that you forget to eat. And you become professional cooks, but you can easily become spiritually anorexic and feed everybody but you, encourage everybody but you, uplift everybody but you, and just get trapped into one aspect of your being when you're a total person with total needs and total issues. And I want to talk to you about that today, and I want to talk to you about ministry, and I want you to open up your heart. And yes, if you find something that you can use, then thank God. God bless you. But I also want you to receive too, because if you're not careful, you become better at giving than you do receiving. And so your ministry grows, but you shrink. And that's a dangerous place to be in, because your ministry can get bigger than you. And if your ministry gets bigger than you, it will crush you. It is harder to manage success than it is failure. There's all kinds of materials about if you fail and if you fall and if you go down, but there's very little things that tell you what to do if you win. and winning can drive you absolutely crazy, because it introduces you to a set of problems that you have never seen before. If you get the vision and you accomplish everything that God put in your heart to do, and I can really relate to pastors and leaders and dreamers, because I started a church in the hills of West Virginia in a church. That's how big it was, just like that, you know. Yeah, that's the whole church. Easter Sunday, we had 7 members. And my car was the bus ministry. I had so many kids in the car, feet was hanging out the window. So whether you got 7 members or somewhere up to 40,000, I can relate to you. I've been on both extremes of the polarity, and I never would have thought when I was grappling with 7 and driving an hour and a half up the road to teach a Bible class to 5 people that I would end up with more people on staff than I ever had in my church. I never would have thought that. And it introduces you to a myriad of problems. You have to be liquid in your thinking, fluid in your thinking, because if you're fluid in your thinking, you can go further, you can do more. God can use you in more capacities. You cannot get stuck in one system of doing things. And I'm going to talk about some of the things you run into as you evolve and as you become, and some of the thirsts that develop in your heart as a person while you do what you do. 18, yet I have left me 7,000 in Israel, all the knees which have not bowed unto Baal, and every mouth which have not kissed him. So this is what God is saying to Elijah after he comes out of the cave, and after he asserts that he is the only one left. So he departed thence and found Elisha, the son of Shaphat, who was plowing with 12 yoke of oxen. Now this Elijah, I want you to see him as a support ministries, okay? He hasn't begun to do this yet, but he's about to find that his calling, that he has been called to serve the set man in the house. But he hasn't really done that yet, because right now he's preoccupied with another calling and another vocation. But in his heart is a dream that something is missing out of his life. And so he departs. He finds Elijah, the son of Shaphat. He was plowing 12 yoke of oxen before him, and he with the 12th. And Elijah passed by him and cast his mantle upon him. And he left the oxen and ran after Elijah and said, let me, I pray thee, kiss my father and mother, and then I will follow thee. And he said unto them, go back again, for what have I done to thee? And he returned back from him and took a yoke of oxen and slew them and boiled their flesh with the instruments of oxen and gave unto the people, and they did eat. Then he arose and went after Elijah and ministered unto him and ministered unto him. And if you need a subject, then let's use you're about to flow in your ministry. You're about to flow in your ministry. I want to just to begin to set some groundwork and some foundation up under this, because God is speaking to Elijah, because Elijah has run into incredible success. I'm not talking about necessarily numerical success. Success is merely effective. He has become effective, and that's the goal. It's not a numerical amount. It's not if I can get 3 churches or 3 services or 3,000 or 3 million. You can't monitor success by that, because everybody's not called to do that. If that is the barometer whereby we evaluate effective Christian leadership, then Christ was a failure. Christ didn't have a mega church and a big bunch of staff. I mean, he had some, but it wasn't. You can't measure success by that. If success is longevity of life, then Christ was a failure. 33 and a half years and he's gone. So success is effectiveness, to do the thing that you were created to do, to accomplish all that's within you. The outworking of the internal, to birth those things that are inside of you, are vitally important. And Elijah was effective. Let's God, he was effective. On Mount Carmel, he was effective. Called down fire from heaven in front of everybody. He was effective. Destroyed the prophets of Baal. He was effective, stood up for God, took a stand for God, and provoked the Spirit of God to move at his command. Isn't that something? To provoke the Spirit of God to move on your command, as opposed to the Spirit of God provoking you to move on his command. Elijah has entered into that dimension with God where God will move at his command. Wow, that's really effective stuff. He could summon the Holy Spirit at will, and the fire fell down from heaven, and fire, when it falls, you expect fire to eat up. Fire will burn wood. That's natural. The Bible said that the fire burned up the wood, but it also burned up rocks. Fire doesn't normally burn rocks. The Bible said it licked up the water. Fire doesn't normally burn water. Water generally puts out fire. So this is a divine thing. When you have a fire that begins to eat up things, that should have eaten it up, you're anointed. Yeah, you're anointed. Let me put it in another metaphor. You're anointed when you can do like Peter and walk on water that should have walked on you. You understand what I'm saying? Some of you are existing in the field of your miracles right now. Things are happening that just defy common logic. It defies reasoning. And one of the offsprings of that is jealousy and envy, and haters come because you defy the natural and you operate in the supernatural. And there's a feeling of injustice for the voyeur who watches you, because they say, I worked just as hard as they did and I'm not getting the results that they're getting, and there's a feeling of intimidation. Elijah's done that. He's called fire down from heaven, and he's exploded in the presence of God and done great things. And then Jezebel comes along and threatens him. This little woman comes along and threatens him. She didn't hit him, she didn't shoot him, she didn't stab him, she just threatened him. Isn't it funny? And he runs from a threat. He runs from a threat. And it is easy to run from what threatens you. Don't let her gender get in the way of you understanding that anxiety is to worry about something that hasn't happened yet. And anytime you run from a threat, you are anxious. The Bible said, be anxious for nothing, but in everything by prayer and supplication, make your requests made known unto God. And the peace of God, which passeth all understanding, shall keep your heart and mind. Peace is the only antidote for anxiety. And all of us have something that threatens us, something that threatens to destroy you, threatens to expose you, threatens to kill you, threatens to apprehend your creativity. And he runs from the threat. The enemy doesn't have to do a lot of things to a lot of leaders. Just threaten the threat of losing your marriage, the threat of losing your building, the threat of people bringing up your past. The threat will keep you in a box, and he runs from the threat. He lands up under the juniper tree. The great thing about talking about leaders, you don't have to explain it like, because you already know your Bible. And he ends up under the juniper tree, and he's just there, and he's made 3 days journey in you had to outrun the chariot. You know, that's bad when you outrun the chariot. And that's what happens when things explode in your ministry. They happen fast. You defy logic. You're not supposed to be able to outrun horses. And all of a sudden things start growing and they start falling into place. Or one moment you are seen as a normal person, and the next moment you are seen as a spiritual leader. You know, Shazam, it's like the Clark Kent Superman thing. You go in the phone booth and you come out, you're a man of God. Yeah, you're a great woman of God, you know, and to almost to the demise of being a person. So the great man of God calls fire down from heaven, but it wears his personhood out. Publicity will eat your personhood up till you cease to be a person. So the person comes up under the juniper tree, worn out, exhausted, depleted, at his wit's end. He's up under the juniper tree. He's tired. He's depressed too. He says, Lord, there are none left of me. Even I only am left. I am the only prophet left. He wasn't the only prophet left, but that was his perception. He's lonely. He's lonely and he's tired. Those wonder twins go together. Generally, when you get tired, you get lonely. You feel lonely not for the lack of people, because you always have people around you, but nobody's feeding you. Nobody's giving back to you. Everybody's drawing from you. I used to have a German Shepherd. German Shepherds, when they have babies, they have babies. I mean, it's puppies everywhere. And I can remember being a little boy seeing a mother German Shepherd give birth up under the porch, and all the little puppies are running up, and she's got nipples all up and down her, and they're all and she's just laying there, just giving it up. First woman pastor. She's first woman pastor. That's what it's like to be in leadership. Everybody's just, and you're just laying there giving it up, just giving it up, you know. And I don't know, because I never had nobody nurse on me, but I imagine that would be draining.